There we go. Apologies about that. Welcome to today's Including People Across the Country webinar. We're going to start in the next minute or so, and we'd just like to make sure that you can hear me okay. So if you'd like to enter hear me okay or something along those lines into the chat room, just so we can double check that the technical sides of things are okay. Great, thank you very much. I'm getting some responses. Can't name names, but you know who you are. Great, so it's 12:30 now, and shall we kick off? Well, thank you very much for joining us today on day 5 of National Inclusion Week 2018. It's been an incredible week so far. I think we're on course to have almost 1,000 participating organisations, certainly 1,000 registered organisations, which is incredible and much higher than what we initially set out when we started setting out targets for National Inclusion Week in May. And really excited to bring you Sky today. The partnership has been fantastic. I've learnt a lot, and I hope you learn some more today too. Some very quick notes on housekeeping. I'll be moderating the chat room. That's not to keep anything you're saying secret, but just to keep you focused on the amazing content our friends here at Sky have produced. So please shout if you've got any questions, which we'll take at the end, but feel free to enter them into the chat room as you go along while it's fresh in your mind. And similarly, if you've got any issues with tech or sound or visuals or anything like that, or if the sound even drops for a few seconds, just let us know. It's nice to know and keep up to date in terms of the experience you're having. Well, I'm going to keep quiet now and hand you over to Team Sky. So over to you.
Thanks very much, Arfan. So we've got a fantastic lineup today. I'm really excited about this webinar. So it's including people across the country, and we thought what better way to bring it to life with our fantastic home service team. So they're the people that go into our customers' homes and install and maintain Sky equipment. So I'll introduce you to them first here. So up on the screen now you can see we have got Carla, Director of Home Service, along with a brilliant team. So we've got Grace, Imran, Sean, Loney, Godwin, and that's my voice that you can hear on the end there to bring you through the topic today. And before we get into that, I just want to set the scene a little bit about Sky first. So, I'm lying, I'm going to tell you the agenda next. We're going to cover off health and well-being, a bit about Ramadan, our fantastic Women in Home Service trainee programme, and Family Time, which is all about creating flexibility actually in a mobile workforce. So really great lineup. The bit about Sky. So we are Europe's leading entertainment company. For anyone that's had a keen eye on the news in recent weeks, you may have seen that we've been in somewhat of a bidding war. We're so leading that people have been fighting over buying us. So it's really exciting times here at Sky. We also, as well as making our own TV shows, we have exclusive partnerships, and we co-produce shows with other big organisations. So bringing us shows like Game of Thrones, for example. And that's all delivered through market-leading innovation and products with best-in-class customer service. So that's enough about Sky. Let's get on to today's subject, and we're going to start proceedings with Carla, who's our Director of Home Service.
Hi, Catherine. Hi, everybody. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background into who we are here at Home Service. I think I've probably got the luckiest and the easiest job in Sky. I look after a team of around 3,500 engineers who carry out 3 million visits a year, looking after our loyal Sky customers. And that's either installing their Sky packages for them, servicing them, or just supporting them via our broadband tech team. Interestingly, most of our people have been here for over 5 years, and the thing that tells me is that our people love working here at Sky. And so what makes the job fun and hard is how do I keep those guys that have been here for so long wanting to stay for as long as they want, and that's by harnessing their passion, and it's by improving their life at Sky in quite often really small ways. And the guys are going to talk to you a little bit more about some of those small ways that we've made a difference in the last year. And so look, communication is probably the most important thing. Managing a remote workforce isn't the same as having everybody sat by you, at the water cooler or in the cafe at the office. And so we have lots and lots of ways that we keep in touch with our engineers who are out on the road. We have our home hub, and that's a place where they can go and get information that they need every day that helps them do their job better. So whether that's changes that we've made or new offers that are coming out, they can find all of the information there that they want. We also have Chatter, which is our social media tool, where we can have a little less serious talk and a little bit more fun talk, and so we can share what kind of day we're having, who's doing what. Lorna, who you'll speak to a little bit later, posts loads of pictures about what life is like as a woman in home service, and they're really insightful, not just for me and for the leadership team, but actually they really help the rest of the business get closer to what's happening here in home service. And then finally we have an amazing forum here at Sky, and I really do believe that in the last 2 years we wouldn't have had the massive traction that we've had in engagement if it wasn't with the help of our forum. They really do help us make massive changes, like, looking at engineer uniforms and deciding if they're the right uniform, if they're comfortable enough, and being bold enough to say, look, it's not working and we need you to change that and help. Right down to the best one I had was a call earlier. We were at the forum meeting when England were playing football in the World Cup this year, and somebody asked me if we could have the following game afternoon off, and I think they'd said it as a bit of a joke, but actually what the forum did was mobilise that, and so we were able to give our guys time off to go and watch the game, which makes a really big difference when you've got a field organisation, because lots of companies would tell you that taking 3,500 people off the road for an afternoon at short notice isn't possible, and I think what we've done here at Sky is prove that that is possible. It just requires an awful lot of work and effort. And so, look, we've got some really bold ambitions for Sky. Our 2020 plan means we need to hit an NPS target, a Net Promoter Score target of 80, and we also need to get our employee engagement up to 82. The really good news is we're already at 85 on NPS. So what we know is, and what makes it really easy to make a difference for these guys in their day-to-day lives is, we know that the service that they deliver to their customers is world-class. It's absolutely world-class service, and how could I not make this a place where these world-class engineers want to stay and be part of making us even more successful. Our engagement was sitting at 78 this time, and we're seeing year-on-year improvements, and I'm really confident that we'll get ourselves to 80 this year if we just keep doing some of this great stuff we're doing around diversity and inclusion that makes everybody feel part of home service and feel part of Sky and really enjoy being here. And then finally, we're really targeting our gender split. So when I took over the team 2 years ago, only 2% of the base were women, and that just simply wasn't good enough. And so we started a big program around increasing the amount of women that we had in home service through a wonderful trainee development program that breaks down barriers and allows women that hadn't been thinking of a career here at Sky to really have a look at it and see what was possible. And that's been going incredibly well. We'll hit our 20% by 2020 target. We're at 12% already. So I'm really pleased with the performance of the team so far, and I think it's a two-way street. And what I've really enjoyed is working closely with these guys who are going to tell you a little bit about their ideas and how they've come to make a real difference to working at Sky, and we're making a difference at home service. Thank you, Catherine.
Thanks very much, Carla. I think, as I said at the beginning, these guys have got an incredible story to tell, and I think Carla setting the scene like that's fantastic. Now what we're going to do is kind of go into some really specific examples about what's been brought to life in home service, and I'm going to pass over to Grace, who's going to talk about focused on health and wellbeing.
Cool. Thank you, Catherine. So really the facts do speak for themselves. 1 in 4 people suffer with ill mental health at any one time. Suicide is the biggest killer for males aged 20 to 49, and females are twice as likely to be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. So it is obviously clearly time to act. Our goal was simple when we started, was to break down the stigma attached to mental health. So we started with 16 champions across home service that had all experienced directly or indirectly the effects of ill mental health, and that were passionate about making a change. We attended a 2-day mental health first aid course, which armed us with the correct knowledge on mental health issues and techniques to be able to support within home service. Home service signed the Time to Change pledge as well when we launched, committing ourselves to breaking that stigma. Following on from that, we went on the road with our home service conferences, attending 26 engineer and 3 team manager conferences, as well as visiting multiple other sites across customer service group with drop-in centres, awareness stands and informal chats with our colleagues across Sky. From this, we then developed team manager awareness sessions for home service, focusing on raising awareness around situations that a TM might experience within the teams on the field, arming them with the right knowledge, techniques and processes surrounding everything mental health, as well as highlighting the support available through Sky with our champions, Sky Support Services and also our healthcare. This was then rolled out to all 26 regions across the country by our champions, sharing their own experiences along the way to really bring those sessions to life and be relatable. 95% of people calling in sick with stress will give a different reason to their employer, and that's what we wanted to stop, that feeling that you can't or shouldn't be open about why you're not feeling okay. Going through my own mental health journey a few years ago helped me become much more aware of the real life struggles that a lot of people do have. I felt that I couldn't and shouldn't talk about my negative and dangerous thoughts that were running through my head, blaming myself for being a failure when I just purely wasn't. It was a really difficult, confusing, demoralising, humiliating time, and not talking delayed my recovery, and if I'd felt that I could have talked sooner, I may not have become so ill. It's so important to know that you're not alone, and it is okay not to be okay all of the time, and I wish that I'd asked for support sooner, because the help, love and care that I received from my family, friends, managers, colleagues, and the professional help I got along the way did save my life, and talking can save someone else's. Since launch in 2017, champions have signposted over 500 people within Sky to support, and that's just champions. So not only that, but there also seems to be a shift in how mental health is discussed. More and more people are speaking up, being open, supporting each other in a way that creates a much healthier and happier environment to work in. The success we've had in home service, combined with the newly started health and wellbeing teams across other departments, has led to our Mind and Body network being launched. This will enable all departments to have a central hub in which we can collaborate, share, and continue to raise awareness and break that stigma. A conversation can change someone's life, and campaigns are awesome. They're a really good opportunity to raise awareness quickly, but we're talking about integrating these conversations into everyday interactions within Sky. So we now have 32 trained champions, and the whole of Customer Service Group and Sky Production Services have now signed the pledge with Time to Change.
Wow, what a story. Thank you.
I've just got one question in relation to the acronym NPS. I can't remember where exactly it came in.
Yeah, so NPS is Net Promoter Score, and that's the worldwide measure for customer satisfaction. So we're measured out of 100 on what our customers think of our service after an engineer's been in their home, and we score 85, which is world-class NPS.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So we're going to stick with health and wellbeing, and we're going to move over to Sean, who's actually going to talk to us a bit more about cancer and raising money for Maggie's.
Thanks, Catherine. I'm part of the wellbeing team as well. I'm one of the cancer champions. I'm really proud to be involved with Maggie's and with the team. I unfortunately lost my mother to cancer 7 years ago. And I'd done the typical male thing where I bottled it all up, put it to the back recesses of my mind, and decided never to talk about it again, which obviously isn't the most healthiest thing to do. So during launch, I was really lucky that I was involved in the VT, and I didn't realise how much so. And off that, I was asked to talk about my experiences, and that bottle was smashed open. And all that emotion came out, and it was such a cathartic experience for me. It was such a relief to talk about it and be involved with the wellbeing team, the cancer champions. I know how important it is to talk, and that's what we try and do. We try and get out to people who are being affected by this illness, and it will be 1 in 3 people will actually develop cancer within their lifetime, which is really alarming. And it's allowed me also to talk to my friends and family who I never did before, and most importantly, my sister and my wife, who we're all trying to be strong for each other. So why Maggie's, you may ask, is because they provide the care that the NHS do not provide anymore. It's practical and emotional support and advice they do everything from getting you out of that clinical environment and into a Maggie's where you can do classes in painting, you can have a massage, you can do classes on mindfulness, there's even counselling, even something as practical as wearing a wig properly, which you just wouldn't think of, or you can just stop in for a cup of tea somewhere and sit quietly and just reflect, is what I've done many a times with Maggie's. I've gone and dropped off a donation, I've sat there and just had a little bit of reflection, or I've sat down with Victoria at Charing Cross and we've had sort of a mini counselling session there and then, which has just been great being involved. I'm so proud of Sky being involved with this charity, and we've raised a lot of money, and what we've done is we created Maggie's Virtual Miles. So as you can see there, you've got a whole team doing press-ups. So I think it was 25 press-ups would equate to 1 Maggie's mile. And you've got Carl there, who's got Donald Bump, his name is. He took a tour with the broadband team around the country, basically getting those miles together so we could raise more money. If you look there, you've also got Andy McGovern and Sean Amos, who's also a cancer champion, who have dropped off donations, and their donations of tea, coffee, etc. that Maggie's just use every day, and they're always happy to receive a donation. And I went to Royal Free last year and dropped off some stuff for them, along with Sean Alger and Adam Barker and Richard Stocker, and they were just amazed at how much we'd accumulated. If you look there, we've raised £32,000, and that's Leeds, and that's going to help build more Maggie's. They're trying to have a Maggie's at every oncology unit, but the great thing about Maggie's is if you walk into a Maggie's, you'll never know you're in a hospital grounds. It's these absolutely stunning buildings where, like I said, you can just get away from that clinical environment and you can sit there and just reflect or do one of the classes. Maggie's, I would recommend that you go and try, and even if you just walk in and donate, because it is an experience in itself. I've been to a few Maggie's and they're always this really stunning building, but on this, they are a stunning building, but the real thing about Maggie's is the beautiful heart and soul that's within them. So if you go into a Maggie's and meet the people there, you will realise that they are the heart and soul of Maggie's, and Sky to be involved in this wonderful charity is just amazing.
Nice one, Sean. What a story. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. We're going to stick on community and family and friends, and we're going to move to Imran now, who's going to talk to us a bit about Ramadan and Eid.
Thanks, Catherine. So this year we did something different in home service at Sky. But I'm going to go through a little bit about what Ramadan is and what Eid is for people that don't know. So Ramadan is where Muslims will fast for about 18 hours a day from sunrise to sunset. At the end of Ramadan, you'll have sort of like a celebration. For me, it's more about stripping back all the luxuries of life and going back to basics. Grounds you and kind of makes you, I would say, appreciate the things that we're used to. So you do this for 18 hours of the day, and at the end of the 30 days, you kind of have a celebration similar to Christmas, where kids will get presents and adults will sometimes get presents, not all the time. We try our best, but it is hard. 18 hours a day in the summer months, because it works on a lunar year, so it moves every 2 weeks every year. Was difficult. Now, how we come about was a little conversation with the director, Carla, who's here today. Was just a conversation around how we could cope and how engineers could cope throughout this hard time. So we kind of come up with a plan 7 days before Ramadan actually was due to start, which was a challenge in itself. But I was happy that the business was looking at how we could change in a short period of time. We then worked with the HR team to understand what we had and how many Muslims we had in the company, and also the planning team to see the effects on our customers, because very importantly, the 85% MPS does not come around by not completing customer installs. So we worked on a project, and we kind of pitched it to Carla to understand if we can or cannot do it, and I can say we did, and it supported our field base. The amount of comments, emails I got personally was fantastic, and I've been here for 7 years, and it was the first time I made a change towards my own culture and religion. So a fantastic time for us, and we made Sky even more inclusive. Another thing I'm part of is multicultural at Sky. Now, this is like sort of the BAME project, which we had on, and also highlights the different sort of cultures, religions, whatever it may be. It gives us an insight of what people are about. It also helps us as a business. Different cultures, different aspects of life brings us together at Sky, and we're very proud of that. So that's it.
Another great story. Wow, 7 days. That is incredible for mobilising a mobile workforce.
Yeah.
Well done. Next up, we're going to move to Loni, who is one of our Women in Home Service trainees, and she's going to tell us her story.
Well, from my experience in the programme, I've had an amazing time going out into the field and training to be an engineer. The role is a fantastic opportunity for anyone looking to change their career. The programme is mainly out in the field training with an experienced mentor. This is mixed with training days at a local training centre. The programme works by letting women know that engineering roles are applicable to them. This automatically dispels any social bias towards the role and gives women the confidence to apply for a role they wouldn't have previously considered. Friends, family, colleagues and customers that have come across Sky's Women in Home Service now have a completely different perception of an engineer. The Sky Women in Home Service programme will contribute to a whole shift in social gender bias, empowering women to believe that they can achieve anything a man can. The reaction from customers: most customers are pleasantly surprised when a female engineer arrives on site. It has been mentioned a few times that some people do find women more approachable and chatty, especially when dealing with vulnerable customers. From time to time, there have been customers sceptical of my ability to carry out my work. I enjoy the challenge of these situations, and I've always managed to turn the customer's perception around, leaving a positive experience from the customer. I do have one example. So 2 months ago, into my training, this particular customer was surprised to see a female engineer on site. He then watched over me whilst I clipped their cable externally. After I finished, he asked if I would like to take a seat in the kitchen and have a cup of tea. I politely declined and continued with the install. He then directed all engineer-related questions to my male mentor working alongside me. After watching me install the SkyQ equipment, including drilling and installing the cable, he then finally felt comfortable enough to say, "Wow, I didn't know you were an actual engineer. You've done a great job." The confused look on his face had finally gone. It's moments like this that I feel proud to be changing the social attitude towards women in the workplace. I have overcome similar challenges in my personal life when meeting people unfamiliar with the LGBT community, but never about my physical ability as a woman to complete a job. From this one install, the change in the customer's opinion makes me feel confident that one day any female can walk into any place of work and feel completely equal. I think it's a proud day for Sky and our Women in Home Service programme. And in answer to the question of what would I say to people who think it's a job better suited to men, I would invite them to come and experience a day in the life of an engineer. It is a job suited to anyone that is friendly, professional and motivated. Gender is not relevant to this role in any way. The physical side of the job is not something that would hold a female engineer back. Thank you.
Well done, Loni. And we've just got a couple more pictures for the people looking on the screen now. So I think we can see you with some of the other trainees on the programme there. So lots of support.
Careers fair in there as well.
And then do you just want to say a little bit more about that last picture?
Oh yeah, that was an absolutely fantastic day. Me and my mentor Gavin were given a fantastic opportunity to reach out to a little boy that has autism. He was absolutely obsessed with Sky and Sky vans, Sky boxes, so we managed to take some time off the diary and do something really special for him. We got some goodie bags together, we took him out in the Sky van. He was more interested in the 2 terabyte boxes in the back of the van than any of the presents, but we managed to sort of get round that. We gave an empty box and a remote. Yeah, but it was absolutely amazing. He loved it, and yeah, his mum and family were really happy with everything Sky had done.
Oh, amazing. I bet that made his day.
Well done.
Thank you, Loni. Right. So next up, we've got Godwin, who's going to talk to us about more flexibility in a mobile workforce. So over to you.
Indeed. Thanks, Catherine. Hi, everyone. Now, this is it's a great example of how a cracking idea can spawn on the way to school. Okay, so just think about it. Just generally, two people walk into school, you know, be it our director, be it be an engineer. We're having just a conversation where Carla says, "Come to coffee morning." No, I can't do that. "Come to coffee morning." No, I've got work to do. "Come to coffee morning." "Sorry, I can't come to coffee morning." So anyway, the invitation there is good, and Carl actually paved the way for him to come to coffee morning, but he declined because he didn't want to impact his customers. So he declined. He went about his business, and then he receives a call not so long after saying, you know, you've hit something off my head here. You know, you're telling me that, you know, there's absolutely no way that we can attend these little simple things, which mean we can interact with people at school, or the parents can interact on a coffee morning or something like that. So that's how it was born, really. So a little bit about exactly what family time is. So family time is where we can have, or engineers, or let's call it field-based workers, can have 2 hours off the diary, okay, to support the families. Now, when you think about family time, a lot of people automatically think about children, okay, and it's the kids. So it is that to do with the kids, you know, it's about, you know, the dentist, assemblies, you know, the activities, you know, anything like that, you know, generally what we go and do. So, you know, couple with parents, sports day even. We all know sports day lasts a little bit longer than 2 hours. And then you get roped into running parents' race, and then you're off work for a couple of days because, you know, they pull something. So, but it is all that. But if you look at the detail a little bit more, I have a parent that's got dementia. Me and my sibling both all work full time, which means, you know, we need to get to appointments, we need to get to the doctors, we need to get to the hospital. And that 2 hours there is massive. You know, it impacts us, you know, or rather it takes the impact out of it, so one of us can take it in turn to get to the doctor in time, to make sure we're there if she's getting a visit off a community worker or anything like that, you know. And it's also just, you know, with accidents, you know, people have accidents. I've got a friend that's in hospital, and I know his family struggle to get to go and see him. So I was just thinking, if you had family time, you know, you could take that 2 hours out during your day, around your lunch, you know, just to go visit, to make sure, just show some support, you know. So the impact it has at the minute is far greater than we could ever imagine. Only a lot of field workers actually look at it and think, what's the catch? You know, where will I have to give this 2 hours back? You know, but that's just the mentality of someone. They always think everything. But there's nothing to it. It really is the essence of the word family. You know, if you have anything that you need to do, that means, you know, you have to support your children, support your brothers and sisters, your mum and dad, anything, you know, that's what these 2 hours are for. And you don't have to work them back, imagine that. Yeah, it's a free 2 hours whenever you need it. Just to go and support your family. So it's a great idea, and it's again spawned from a conversation, a general conversation on the way to school. So it's a great example of how collaborating comes together and comes up with great ideas. Okay, yeah, and that's it from me.
Thank you very much, and I think we just end on a lovely picture of you with your family. So thank you very much, Gudrun. So we've heard from our engineers. We're going to head back to Carla now just to see if there's anything you want to add. And anything you want to share with the team?
Yeah, so look, it really does. I actually wish you were all in the room with us at the minute, because if you were, you'd be able to see how proud it makes me feel to hear these updates from the team. They're also passionate about what they do and how they can improve things for the team and for their customers. And it's not just the people here today, it's the whole team across home service that inspire me and really make me want to push this team to be the best that we can be. It proves, the stuff they talked about today proves that everyone can get involved, express an idea or an interest and get fully behind it to make it happen. Ideas need to be generated from those that are out in the field each and every day, and it really does make a difference for us. So look, for me, inclusion is a universal human right, and I'm absolutely delighted that we've been able to share our home service stories with you today, demonstrating, and hopefully you've been able to see, that inclusion in home service is simply just a way of life for us, and it's not something that we have to think about all the time. It's something that we do day in, day out for each other and for ourselves. So I'm really glad you've taken the time to listen to the guys here today and hear more about what we're doing in home service, so thank you.
Absolutely, I'd echo that. I think home service are an inspiration within Sky, so hopefully they've provided some inspiration outside Sky as well. So I think, Arfan, we're over to you to see if we've got any questions.
Great, yeah. So got a couple in relation to family time. The first one, is there a limit on the number of family times taken in the year? And I suppose building on that is, do you have to show any evidence of the time you've actually taken away has actually been spent.
Right. So what we do is you get 2 hours per quarter. So obviously our year is broken down into quarters, so you get 2 hours per quarter. So the what we call a diary, so it's probably the engineer commitments. So we can that's how we monitor it. We can actually put it onto the FMS, what we call it, our diary. We also put it on the portal just to record it. So if an engineer approached me and said, I need 2 hours family time, but you've already had 2 hours. It's just a way of us recording it so we know where we're at with it. So it's 2 hours per quarter.
And look, we don't ask questions about what people want time off diary for. It's there for them to take or not to take, and not everybody uses it. In fact, I don't even think we're up to half of the population using it at the minute. But for me, it's just something that allows people to, as Godwin said, go and do some things, whether it's the fun stuff like watching nativity plays or sports days, or having school coffee morning, or doing the first orientation day for their children without having to take days off school, or it's being able to look after elderly parents, or even just drop in and have a cup of coffee with your parents or your friends as a bit of a surprise. That's what family time's about. It's just about allowing people to just step out of it once a quarter and do something that they want to do.
Great, thanks very much. And so building on that, what do your friends and family say about Sky and in relation to the kind of work you do? And perhaps this is not for everyone, or to go around, or any takes?
No, sorry.
So, I mean, especially with me with mental health and wellbeing awareness, my friends and family think that I've changed. They think that I talk about my feelings too much now. No, it definitely creates a very different type of conversation with people I interact with outside of work as well, but then also makes my outside of work relationships much healthier and happier, because I sort of Sky rubs off in your personal life, which is what you want, because you don't want negative things. But if you work in a place that you love because it's so inclusive and because you cover all of these really important topics, then you go to work and love it, and then you go home and you still love it. So it definitely makes it much easier to say that you enjoy your job and mean it, definitely.
I'd love to share a story with you that I heard 3 weeks ago, actually. And you ask what friends and family think about kind of some of these initiatives that we do in home service. But I got an email from an engineer, and a customer that he'd been to see told him that she was aware of the help that we were doing in the workplace, in the mental health space. And that customer felt so comfortable talking to an engineer that she shared a very personal story with him about the loss of her son 6 months previously. And I can't tell you how delighted I was that the engineer was able to have a conversation with that customer and point her in the right direction for where she could get some support. So look, our champions are not counsellors, but what they do know is how to point people in the right direction to get the support that they need. And I was really delighted that he'd come to me to say, I've done this, I've helped this lady, and I'd really like to send her a bunch of flowers, just to tell her that I'm thinking about her. Is that okay? And it really does tell me how far we've come in that mental health space, that not only do our friends and family know what we're doing, but our customers know what we're doing. And I'm utterly confident that our engineers out there in our customers' houses do the right thing every day to help that customer, not just with their install sometimes, but every now and again just in their personal lives too. It's a really special thing.
Great story. Thank you, Carla. Does anyone else want to say what their friends and family think about working at Sky?
Yeah, I'm. Do you know what? Just at the moment, I'm just really passionate about the things Sky are doing. We're doing some really great things. What Sean's working on, what Grace is around the women in home service. And I'm very positive. I'm proud of all you guys. Carla, breath of fresh air for the things that we're trying to achieve, the initiatives we're pushing forward. Great time to work for Sky, absolutely great. And my family's probably sick about hearing about it.
Yeah, I've got a few different family members that work in different areas of Sky, and with my stepdad being in SE, I had a good view that Sky is a great company to work for, but actually coming and stepping into that, I'm now the Sky fan that's asking people to come and work with us and work alongside us. And when I meet especially women that are in different roles that are not as hands-on and things like that I know would absolutely love this job, I'm the one preaching and saying, you know, come and work for Sky, please. It's amazing.
And is Essie a specialist engineer?
Yeah, sorry.
Woo! The only non-engineer in the room who got that Essie bit right.
Good job for you, Catherine.
Oh, I'd love to join home service.
Yeah, for me, especially with Maggie's, just being involved has changed my life dramatically with my family and friends in a way that I can openly speak to them now. And I've had circumstances out in the field where I've sat down with customers who've actually been diagnosed with cancer and quite happy to sit with me. And I've recently appointed a lady towards Maggie's because she was going up London for treatment. And I said, why don't you go to one of the Maggie centres? And it's just great to be involved, in all honesty. And yeah, I can never talk enough about Maggie's and what we do.
I think for me, it's we have the best innovation, content, products, you name it. But I think if we look deep down into that and how that comes about, I think we have the best people. We support each other, we make change in the right ways in order to help our people, which then portrays into our customers and family. And they all see us on the road, it may be, with the Sky vans or the branded T-shirts, whatever it may be, and they all want to be a part of us. And it could be only one reason for that, is that we support us to be better for our customers.
Great, thank you. And Carla, your point is interesting. Did you say that about 50% take up? Was that of the entire family time quota, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I think it's just under 50%, but less than 50% of engineers actually take advantage of the opportunity that's available to them, and that's cool, right? Some of them just don't need to do that.
Has there been any kind of specific feedback from those who haven't taken it up in relation to perhaps why?
As in why they don't take it? They don't need it. You know, they feel like they don't need it. Quite often, what we find is the guys that do take it up will be in dual working families where, you know, they just have an emergency or they need to help out with something. The rest of the guys, you know, and that's a really good thing. We don't actually measure it. It's just a benefit that's out there. We don't have targets against it or budgets against it. It's just the right thing to do. And so if you want to take it up, you take it up, and if you don't, that's absolutely fine.
So as a engineer, I didn't actually ever take family time, but the fact that it was there, available if I needed to, with ill grandparents, with sisters that are having babies and everything else, the fact that it was there and I was aware I could take it, and that's the great thing. Never needed to take it because within my team we're all quite flexible anyway, so we support each other. But if, you know, we're all really busy, I had so many jobs a day and none of us could help or support each other to get home that little bit earlier, I knew that I could then ask for it. So yeah, even though the uptake may not be 100%, I think the fact that everyone knows about it is amazing, and we know that it's available when we need it.
I think the other thing that's coming out, and I don't think anybody said this word yet, is it's based on trust.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the fact that it's not measured or targeted or you got approval or anything else, it's based on trust, and that's huge.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So in relation to the Women at Sky network, what's really worked bringing female engineers, and is there any learning that can be shared for our participants on the call?
I think what's really worked with the Women in Home Service programme is there's some customers that do prefer a female engineer there, or if there's someone that particularly only wants a certain type of person there for whatever reason, then we've got that option and that flexibility and those resources to actually send the right type of people into the right areas. And I think the customers see that and they appreciate that, the steps that we're going to as well. In terms of the way that the Women in Home Service programme is structured, is completely different to the usual sort of progression route. So the extra support and resources that the women receive mean that you've equipped with every tool necessary to succeed within that role, and I think Sky have done a fantastic job with it.
I think one of the really interesting things around the Women in Home Service programme, and I mentioned a little bit earlier about the numbers, and I have to tell you, I've been at Sky for 6 years. I've only been in home service for 2 years, but I was absolutely gobsmacked when I realised how low the number of women that worked in home service actually was. And when I started to ask the questions around why don't women work in home service, I got these really confident answers back, which was, you know, they don't like working on their own, they don't like carrying heavy stuff, they don't want to work in a male-dominated environment, and I got all these reasons really confidently. And it was only when I started to ask more questions around that I realised that none of those were actual quoted reasons by women for why they didn't want to work in home service. They were an absolute ton of assumptions, and you know, and I'm from men about women, why women don't want to work in home service. And it was only when we started to work with Helen Wollaston at WISE, Women in Science and Engineering, and she helped demystify some of the unconscious bias that exists in this space, that we were really able to put together what I believe is a really robust plan that allows women to come in and almost try before they buy, if you like. This is an opportunity for women to come in to Sky for 6 months, to give the job a go and see what they think. And we use that 6 months to try and debunk all of the myths around lone working, because what we realised really quickly is lone working is not an issue. GPs do lone working all the time, and we don't hear women GPs saying they don't want to go into people's houses. You know, Lonnie is a great example of, you know, engineers for whom carrying ladders isn't... Look, ladders are difficult, but they're difficult for the men as well as the women, right?
Yeah.
Ladders are just heavy, full stop for everybody. And so, but what's been really good is the feedback that we got from the guys in the team, as well as the women that are on the Women in Trainee programme, helps us push forward even on kit. So, for example, we're looking at lightweight titanium ladders now that make the role even easier. And that's where I think we lead the way in this space. So we have more females in this kind of role than any other company in the UK, and I think that's because we've taken our time, we listen to both our male engineers and our female engineers about what works and what doesn't, and then we go and make a difference. We make changes where we need to make changes. It's not falling on deaf ears, that feedback.
I think that's a really interesting point about the ladders, because I think that's something Sky do really well. So it's not just about making the ladders lighter for women. Like, let's just make them lighter for everybody. You know, actually that just makes life easier for everybody, doesn't it? So it might come from one voice or one angle, but actually the impact is huge.
Yeah.
And what we found from training is that it's all completely down to technique. I'm sure the men around this table will agree. There's absolutely nothing to do with your physical strength or anything like that. There's a tipping point. It's all completely technique. And if the trainers have even explained that some people have gone into training with a very masculine attitude of, I'm going to, you know, sort of lift this ladder in a certain way. And it does not work. It's all about technique and watching your actions, being aware of your environment. And both men and women have qualities in all those areas.
Amazing. I was expecting a flood of questions there in relation to what the technique is, but I suppose
Put the ladder on your shoulder, a couple of steps backwards, and you find the balance. It's not about lifting and throwing the ladder around.
Get yourself down to a training centre.
And I suppose building on that point would be really interesting for us as participants, I think, to understand whether people with disabilities could work in home service, and how you're here at Sky you're trying to overcome those.
I'm diagnosed Asperger's, autistic, and I had a late diagnosis when I was 23, and navigating this has never been an issue in the company of Sky. There's no focal point on it. If there's ever anything that you'd need any support on, the support is there, but the focus is not about your disability, it's about your ability to do your job, and if any sort of accommodations need to be made. And so far, it's not impacted my job or work life and or figures whatsoever, thanks to Sky.
One of the other things that we've done is we were chatting about 18 months ago about, and it actually came out of the Women in Home Service programme, about the types of people that could do this job, because what we started to say was, if people have made all these assumptions about women, let's actually go back and have a look at all these assumptions that we've made about everybody else and ask why they can't do this job. And so one of the programmes that we're also running is around deaf awareness, because a couple of things we realised is there is no barrier to somebody that is either partially deaf, hard of hearing, or fully deaf being able to be an engineer or a broadband tech expert here at Sky. There is no reason for it. And actually, when we look at the fact that we have 12 million customers here in the UK at Sky, what we know is that those 12 million customers are an incredibly diverse bunch of customers. And actually, we really need to start to reflect that a little more. So we started to talk to some of our deaf customers about how they feel when engineers come out into their homes and what would help them feel more comfortable when our engineers come in. And we talked to our engineers about how can we help you communicate with our deaf customers better than we do now. And as a result of that conversation, over the last 6 months, we've been rolling out British Sign Language courses across home service, training our engineers to help them understand how to communicate really effectively with deaf people. And that's even just, small things like we would never have known, how do you get a deaf person's attention when they're in their home? Well, what we might have been doing before is tapping them on the shoulder, but just like somebody that can hear, that's terrifying if you don't expect it coming, right? So we learn, if you want to get a customer's attention, turn the light on and off in the home, or, move so you're within their eyesight. And we've learnt little bits about that, and things like, what the sign is for Wi-Fi, what the sign language is for, we're all done here, is there anything else I can help you with? And I was talking to some of our deaf customers on Wednesday this week about the difference that's made. And, it's incredible for us. Again, it's just another one of these things where you just think, if we do believe that inclusion is a universal human right, we just have to keep pushing on this. We have to keep pushing on all of these things. And what I'd like to see us do going forward is, rather than pick on these in isolation, just look at holistically how we really focus on being more inclusive. So yeah, the deaf awareness thing's just been mind-blowing for us. And the engineers that you talk to, it's amazing to see engineers who can hear choosing to sign with each other, which I saw at the Leeds office last week. It was brilliant.
Thank you for that. Yes, it's interesting to hear how you're communicating kind of within people's homes, and I think we could go into that in so much more detail. I think that's really interesting. I suppose what on the flip side is, how do you communicate with each other in your organisation, with colleagues, with in a bit more detail, particularly if you're out and about all day?
I mean, we have certain networks. We can all, especially in the field, we have iPads or even phones to communicate. But we also have team meetings and things like that. When you generally work on your own, there are some days when you actually notice that you are alone. But a phone call, you can even FaceTime if you wanted to, if you felt, But so as much as you are alone, you're not. There's a lot of people around you. We always offer the support into our own little network that we build. We might have 4 teams in a pod that work in and around the same area. If somebody's struggling with something, you can make a phone call. Somebody can come and support you with that, or your team manager can make a phone call to another team manager if you've got somebody there. So we try and communicate as best we can. We're not always the best at communicating. I'll be honest. There are some that just want to get through the day's work and go home without, having to make a phone call. But I suppose the only thing we can do is let them know that there's somebody there if you need them. So that's probably my take on it. What do you think, Imran?
Yeah, just touching on sort of team meetings, we also have time to learn, which is about content and learn about content in a meeting environment. We also have team time, which is once a quarter as well. So we meet up with the engineers, maybe have breakfast and understand what they're going through and set agendas for the quarter. So there's a lot of avenues out there to, I'd say, bridge that gap that you might see when you're working alone. Also on the other side, engineers do know that there's always someone there. I think that's the most important thing. Doesn't matter who it is in home service, team manager, engineers, directors, everyone's here to help. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's very important, that we're all on the same page.
Within my team, we all sign in the morning to say good morning to each other, so we all know who's in, and then through the day we'll give updates, and then we talk to each other, we tell each other we're going on lunch, and then we sign back in and let them know how much work we've got left, and then people will say where they are and where they're going, and we all support each other at the end of the day. So although you are alone in that world, you never feel alone.
Do you know what I find? We keep saying that we're alone, and to me, you're in customers' homes, so we talk to people all day anyway. So I spend, when I'm on visits, to be fair, I love interacting with people, I love hearing their story, and I do talk to them the whole time I'm there. and you can really get different perspectives on all sorts of things. You could be in one customer's home and they're talking about World War II, and then you could be in another customer's home and they're talking about a company that's a rival of ours, OpenReach or something like that. You can have a right debate with how they do things in their inclusive environment, and it's you are interacting with people all day, but in regards to being with your team, it's how you make it. If you're a social person, not only do you have great communication with your customers, but you also have great communication with your teams. But obviously, to have great communication with your teams, you need to make sure the teams are inclusive, which is what all this is about, surely. So I don't think there's ever a problem within Sky of people feeling alone, because everything is there for us, ready to make sure we're not.
Yeah, just one thing to add. So when we do team meetings, I bring in a guest or try and bring in a guest. So my last team meeting, Kyla was kind enough to come along with Angela Seaton. And again, it's just building a little bit of a network. So I haven't only had Carla, we have different departments taps. I've had some other ladies came from sales. I've been trying to get into service, just so we can bridge that gap between departments and just trying to build that network. Do you know what I mean? So actually, if you do have an issue, you've got to contact somebody that can answer that question for you. So it's about building a wider network across all the estate at some point, but little baby steps just to try and get it off the ground and get it running.
Just on what Grace said about being alone thing, I actually didn't think of it like that. It's kind of, it's gone home, because I love being out and about in my job and meeting the people I meet. One of the joys for me is the pets, the little dogs or the kittens or anything like that. And it's great. Yeah, you meet such a wide variety of people, and you don't feel alone as such. No, not at all. But it is a great part of this job is you see the whole world, and you see it differently when you work in home service as well.
Great. So how is it bridging that understanding, particularly with the board members? I don't know what the exact term is at Sky in terms of what you're going through on a day-by-day basis, and how do you kind of lobby support or progress? Yeah.
I think one of the ones I'd just like to describe a little bit further is the Sky Forum. So we've talked about it a little bit on this call, but the Sky Forum is a group of around 100 Sky employees. And they've got representatives from every part of Sky. So I think in home service and broadband tech, we're at 12 or 13 forum reps?
13.
Yeah.
That's right. So they work together across home service and connect up a lot of the things that we've been talking about today, but also the technical things around actually, in customers' homes and fixing stuff in customer service. But the thing that they do to connect to the rest of Sky, which I think is where this question has come from, they get together 4 or 5 times a year with the rest of the the rest of the Sky Forum reps, and they are from all of our corporate functions. They are from the rest of our customer service groups, so our contact centres, our retail stands. They are from our Sky production studios, our broadcast team. So those 100 people, when they get together, that's really about making Sky, which is a big organisation. We're at about 23,000 across the UK and Ireland. When those 100 people get together, that's around making Sky feel like a much smaller place, because you've literally got people from every single team in Sky together in a room. And what also happens in those meetings is our senior leaders come to those sessions as well. So, and that's about kind of the reality check on both sides, actually. So kind of what's coming up as a business, what are our priorities, what's coming next, maybe new products, maybe new content, that kind of stuff. And getting some feedback and some ideas and some suggestions before things launch. But it's also an opportunity to the forum reps and when the 12, 13 people from home service come along to go, well, actually, I've got a question about this, or I've got an idea about that, or we've been doing this way, but we think it could be better, and you've heard some of those examples today. So, Ramadan came up through a Sky Forum meeting. So that's just what, for somebody outside the home service team, I feel quite well connected to home service, and actually so I work in HR. The reason that I asked this group of people to come and do this conversation today is because I see what they're doing. I know what they're doing. I hear what they're doing, and I am just genuinely inspired. And I think, well, if home service can do it, everyone can do it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And look, the exec don't get off with it either. So the exec have a quarterly programme, which means that every member of the exec team has to go out with an engineer out in the field for the day just to get a little bit closer to our customers and understand what the role's about and look at some of the challenges and some of the changes that we've made. And we get that feedback back from every visit that helps us, again, inform conversations that we're going to have, either as a leadership team or as a forum team, and changes that we want to make. And it's great feedback to get. And I have to say, I always get an email from the exec that says, always starts with, just had a great day out with a fantastic engineer. And that's all I need to hear.
Great, thank you very much. So 1:25, I know we've got a couple of points to wrap up on. So should we, if anyone's happy, any final points in the Q&A? If not, we can move on.
We're good. Thank you. So obviously we've shared quite a lot today. We're also really happy to keep on sharing if anybody wants to. So I'll just leave our names up on the screen there now for a second. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, really happy to. If you don't want to do that, if you'd rather do that another way, you'll also see, if you haven't already, that people right across Sky, so not just home service, but are really active in using this hashtag across all social media platforms. So not just for National Inclusion Week, but kind of all throughout the year. And we really encourage people to share, you know, their unique experiences of working at Sky, whether that's with a customer or in the office or wherever else that is. So please feel free to get in touch or follow us and find out what else we're up to after this week.
Great, thank you very much, Catherine and colleagues here today. So very sad to say that was the last webinar for National Inclusion Week. It feels like it's been a never-ending in a good way, but there's been lots of amazing content. If you missed any of the webinars or any sections of today's webinar, I'm going to click stop record and review the quality of the recording. It hasn't failed me so far, but just put in a disclaimer, and I can send you the recording after, no problem at all. It'll be on YouTube, so super easy to access. Similarly, we've got lots of events coming up. If you go to the Inclusive Employers website, so that's inclusiveemployers.co.uk/events. Our next one is How Do I Become an Inclusive Employer in Leeds, and that's free to attend as well for an hour in the afternoon. It's coming up in relation to mental health awareness and multi-generational workplaces as well. I hope you've enjoyed the content today. As ever, we're happy to take any questions after today, and you know how to contact us at Inclusive Employers. But that's all for me, and thank you for joining us.